All right. Hello. Hi there. My name is Rio or Corey. Um, I go by a few different names, but anyway, I wanted to kind of start documenting some of my Go progress and journey. So I pulled up here. This was my old username, was the Bird of Prey. I went by that for a number of years. But I've scrolled down here. I started off playing on OGS. I started off playing basically as the AlphaGo match with Lee Sedol was happening. I watched the games live because I used to stay up till like 5 in the morning pretty regularly. So I was watching the games live, and that kind of is what got me into Go. So I've pulled up here. This is the first, I think, ever game that I. No, wait, sorry. This is the first ever game that I've ever played. It was 13 by 13 because to me, I felt like 9 by 9 was a little bit too simple. Obviously, I learned the rules. I learned like some of the very, very basics. I don't know exactly which site or anything that I learned the rules from, but I learned like the basic rules on some like super beginner website that just walks you through like the basic rules, and so I played out this game. So I'll just play through it pretty quickly. It's a 13 by 13 game. It's not very well played in my opinion. I think I got matched up with somebody who wasn't as brand new, but obviously there was probably a lot of people um, getting into the game at that point. I know there was a big kind of increase in general. I'll just kind of play this through, where what ends up happening is I kind of make this other group, sort of ends up being an invasion, and then I make this big, solid wall on the left side. And then at this point, I just kind of try invading because that seems like a thing people do in games, right? And then eventually it all kind of ends up dying because I have no idea what I'm doing or how to make two eyes or anything. And so this is the end result of the very first game that I played, a 13 by 13 game, and I lost spectacularly, let's say. But I made at least one like solid thing of territory, right? Okay. So then I backed up and I started playing 9 by 9 for a little bit because obviously, apparently, I'm not really prepared for a 13 by 13. So I started off playing kind of a similar thing. We end up just sort of playing through the game. I don't really know how to defend against like the second line and first line Atari business that goes on and whatnot. And as you can see, sort of, we end up in a similar situation where I don't really understand how to live, how to keep groups alive yet. Not very good at seeing Ataris, all this type of stuff. Very noob, beginner level stuff here. And then I think I pulled up here somewhere. Maybe not, but we can do it right now. Why not? We can pull up like the first win that I get. Spoiler alert, it was not a complete game, but it counts. I don't know that the game should have ended at this point, but my opponent resigned, I guess. And so that was the end of the game, because they missed an Atari, I guess, on their 3 stones, and I connected up everything, and they could have definitely still, eaten some territory on the top right and top left. We could go to, maybe this is the first sort of like 9 by 9 game that I actually win that goes all the way to counting. I just kind of want to document these for posterity and whatnot. Oh, my opponent's trying invading now, right? But now I'm a little bit better at the game, and I potentially know what to do to stop some of this from happening. I don't know why I try to do the exact opposite to him back, but whatever. This ends up happening. I don't know that this should have been scored exactly the way that it was, but we'll leave that alone. I probably didn't see that these 3 stones were captured in a snapback or anything that was going on. Okay. And then eventually, I end up winning a 13 by 13 game. And all these were played over the course of like the same day, basically, right? So I'll just kind of speed through this real quick. You can get a basic degree here. The win rate graph, we didn't have AI built into OGS back then or anything. So it's quite funny looking back on some of these games and seeing the win rate just spike back and forth like 20 different times between 100% win for each player. Okay. So that's how my Go kind of progress journey went. You can see a lot of those games were played on March 19th of 2016. And then I ended up playing a bunch more games for about like a 3-month period, ending around the start of June in 2016. And then that's kind of where I stopped playing the game for a while. I play a few more games in early 2017, but not very many. And then this is around when I swapped over to my current username, which is Riokaii. And you can see I played like a handful more few games in 2017, very interspersed off and on, like 1 month, 2 months in between them sometimes. Just playing with friends if they ever wanted to kind of do some silly stuff. on Discord at the time and whatnot. And I had some people kind of helping me and being teachers back then, so I do think I learned somewhat quickly. But you can see the end of the 19x19 games that I'm just playing, getting matched with randomly on OGS. I made it up to around 5Q, maybe slightly higher than that, maybe like 4 or 3Q at the time, in about a span of 3 months, I would say, actively playing, and then kind of a drop off from there. And then I basically didn't play, I would say, from all of like 2017, even 2018 barely counts. I played for maybe a couple days in here. I don't exactly know why I was playing. This looks like a bunch of correspondence games that I was partially playing that then just timed out because I stopped playing, and these are when they expired. So I don't even think these are actually me playing. I think these are prior games that are now expiring. I don't know why it took them like 3 months to expire. I guess I had built up like vacation time and stuff probably. Anyway, so that's the result of that. And then you can see I didn't play again until basically near the end of 2024. So I started playing, I would say, late November, but kind of more like the start of December. So some of those first games back were down here. You can see this Sidorv. This was kind of the first game that I played back, and we'll go through this game a little bit. So I took essentially, I would say, a 6, maybe 7 year break from the game entirely. And I was around 5Q when I stopped playing. I loosely, off and on, would keep in touch with Go content a little bit. I was definitely not doing daily Sumego, like, at all. I was occasionally watching, like, a Nick Sabicki lecture or, some other game that was happening that I either came across or was just popped up for whatever reason. I used to follow Brady's Blunders a lot. I used to follow Haley and her channel back then. Anyway, long ago, right? And so I'll just play through this game. So this is like my first game back of like, okay, I'm trying to play the game, but I haven't played in like 6 or 7 years, right? I still sort of know like some Joseki-ish type things. I know some of the basics still decently well. My reading is like probably like 4 moves max at this point. It's not very great. I don't know shapes very well of what I should be aware of or cautious of in terms of cuts and things like that. I know how to recognize having 2 eyes and that type of stuff. But I'm sort of just like blindly copying shapes that I see other people play in games, and I don't really have a whole lot of like intention or thought or planning of what I'm doing. It's just kind of like I play a shape, and if that shape turns out to be bad and not actually what I need because I'm not reading anything, then we get into trouble, obviously. So you can see trouble has happened on the bottom. There's kind of a dead group already. I basically pretty much died in the top left in a few different ways. Although I'm not entirely sure how much of that I was aware of at this point. And then, I'm just sort of trying to seal off the right side territory, and it's decently big, and he lives inside, and, stuff like that happens. And so we end up getting to the end result of the game, just playing out endgame here at this point, right? And again, I kind of lose by a pretty spectacular margin. This is, White wins by 67 or whatever. And we can sort of speed through some of the rest of these, of me playing around these games. I don't end up winning very many of them. And so I kind of take a break for a while. Obviously here I'm like dead in a bunch of ways, and I end up just resigning. Sort of similar thing here. And so I would guesstimate when I came back to the game, I had decreased from around maybe a 5Q level up to down to probably like 9 or 10Q. Around there would be my guess. Maybe 8Q if I was being generous. Was about where I started out at. And then I would say from around December, maybe start to middle of December, I started trying to take the game a bit more seriously. I downloaded Fox and I started playing on Fox. I've played around 100 games there. And I've been uploading some of the SGFs to OGS so that I can use their AI to review. So we'll take a look at a few more of these games. These are some of the first games that I came back playing. And, they're not my best work, but obviously we'll just document them for the sake of it. And so the reason I'm making this series is that my goal, I want to be at least 1 Dan, but my goal is 3 Dan by next January. So roughly 1 year from now. If you want to be picky about it, it's technically 13 months from now. And so my question is kind of, do I think that's a reasonable and an achievable goal, which I think it is. I think 3 Dan is a stretch. I think 1 Dan is definitely achievable in that time. I think 1 Dan, my goal would be 1 Dan by like June, July, like middle of the year. Here I'm like dead, so I just resign. Here I end up super behind, as you could see by the end of the game and whatnot. So these are some of my earlier games. So this is where I was starting out at, right? And so over the course of, I would say, the past month, like it's now end of January, maybe past 2 months, is I've started trying to take the game more seriously again and actually, um, learn and study and improve at the game. So this is where I was starting out at. So I've been documenting or trying to start documenting what I've been doing to learn. So I found the channel Here We Go. That is, in my opinion, so far the #1 best resource that I've found coming back to the game. Telegraph Go is another one of my favorites, especially for the pro games and sort of the higher level review stuff. I've always liked Michael Redmond. His channel's great. Baduk Doctor is another one I found. Benkyo Baduk, also excellent. Right around my skill range, I would say. 10 to 5Q to 1 Dan pathway. I think Benkyo has that like locked pretty good. Go Inside. I've also taken now a move myself. I used to live in Idaho. Now I'm moved into North Carolina. I believe Go Inside is native to North Carolina, so I'm hoping to run into them at some point, either at a tournament or an event or something like that. New York Institute of Go, I've been liking a lot of their videos. Here's a bunch of the Here We Go. And so I've worked through, I think, his first like 5 chapters in terms of like opening, life and death, Joseki, kind of those type of things. Maybe all 7 chapters, I don't remember. And then I've started on the Gyokyo Shamyo problems. I'm probably mispronouncing that. I'm around up to a problem 1-75. I think the problems get harder as they go along, and I think also that it would be better for me not to do problem like all in the category 1 problems before moving on to category 2. I think it would be better if I did like the first 25 of each of these problems and then did them in blocks like that, so I might start doing that in the future. Go player Yanwu, also great channel. Yoon's Badukek Cafe is there. Nick Sabicki, I've been trying to go back through a lot of his old lectures. I started with around lecture 180, which is around the time of the AlphaGo match, I believe. And so I'm working through that. I'm up to like 250 or so. I previously, in the first like 3 months that I was learning, I had watched through all the Nick Sabicki lectures up through 1 through like 250 or something at that point. But now I'm going through them again, and it's the same thing with the Here We Go channel with the first opening stuff, and especially like the Joseki videos, is that I'm definitely going back to those videos now 2 and 3 times and refreshing them for myself, like once every, I would say, month or so right now. Like I've done it twice, right, in 2 months, so that's about right. Andrew Simon's good video. Triton Baduk is another one that I've found. Go Magic, new channel, also awesome. Who else did I follow back then? Aside from Brady's Blenders. Incente was another channel that I used to follow. Anyway, so I'm trying to document sort of most of the videos that I think I'm learning a lot from and that I will go back to and that I would recommend other people to watch. I'm going to try and like archive those and keep them in this playlist. I've been trying to do daily Sumego problems either on goproblems.org or .com, I forget what it is. There's a couple different phone apps. I like Sumego Pro. I've been doing that. There's a couple other ones, but anyway, this is kind of where I'm starting out at, right? So I've played now, I would say around 100-ish games since I've been back in the span of 2 months. So that's around 50 games per month, which I think is maybe slightly under 2 games a day. I think that's a good pace. I think I might actually want to be playing a lot more than that. It's a little tricky with holidays and all this other stuff going on, but I think like 2 games played per day is about the pace that I want to be at minimum. Ideally, probably a lot higher than that, but I'm doing a lot of study right now. I think later on, once I've gotten, a lot of this is like front-loaded stuff in terms of study, right? Like I just want to kind of get a lot of concepts and the right conceptual understanding of like framework of how I should be thinking in my head right now. So I'm focusing on concepts. And then later, once I have a lot of like the basic life and death and reading and stuff like that, then I can sort of just spam more games and get more experience that way, and do it sort of brute force, tedious actual effort. And I will need less of the lectures, I think, at that point. I'm definitely looking for a teacher at some point. I think I can make it up to around 1 Dan without any specific teacher. I think it's mostly just mastering kind of the fundamentals. Getting to 3 Dan, I would probably need a teacher. I'm definitely considering Benkyo Baduk's league and his Patreon. as a way to have at least some sort of teacher thing. I'm holding off on that for now because I want to get through the it's a front-loaded backlog. That's kind of a weird way of phrasing it, but I want to get through the front-loaded like lectures that are available publicly already. And then once I've run out of that and exhausted that, that's when then I would start going into like the Patreon specific lectures. But there's no use in me paying for the Patreon right now in like January when I'm still working through all the public stuff, and I won't actually be able to take in all of the Patreon stuff until probably like February, March, April time, right? So hopefully February is around when I would finish doing a lot of this. But so yeah, still working through a lot of this. But right now, I would guesstimate my skill in terms of we can pull up some of my newer SGF files now and things like that. This is a game I just played today. So I'm mostly playing on Fox now. On Fox, I'm currently 5Q, but I've been on the border. I've been within two wins of ranking up to 4Q. And I haven't played, I think, enough games for it to accurately rank me yet, because I started out on Fox at, I think, 8Q, and so I've climbed from 8 to 7 to 6 to 5 already in the span of less than 100 games. And I've been climbing pretty steadily. It takes me around, I would say, 20 to 25 games or so at a rank before I'm ranking up to the next one right now. So even though I'm currently only 5Q on Fox, I would guesstimate my strength is actually stronger than that. And it's because the Fox ranks, I think, are a little bit inflated also, from what I've heard. So I would guess my actual strength right now, after around 1 to 2 months back from maybe 8 to 10Q range when I started out, is that I've climbed back up and possibly exceeded my old strength. In terms of, I think I'm around maybe a 3Q on Fox right now, and that's probably around a 5Q on OGS, I would guess, around that range. And so my goal is around probably 1 Dawn minimum on OGS, which would be 3 Dawn on Fox. I think the higher goal would be around 4 or 5 Dawn on Fox, and 3 Dawn or 2 Dawn on OGS. That's where I would like to be a year from now. So let's take a look at this game that I just played. In general, I like to play 4-4 opening as the first move as both colors, and I always play the opposite corner to the black starting stone in terms of my opening like Fuseki stuff, just because it avoids the diagonal cross game thing. And I don't like to play a 3-4 because it gives my opponent the opportunity to play the like facing corner with their first move. And so I like playing 4-4 because it doesn't matter which other corner my opponent plays. I can always play an opening that I like, which is normally this. I've been liking this 3-4 facing my other stone, or I'm potentially looking into playing this other 3-4 and then starting to play something like this, or something similar to like the orthodox Fuseki, essentially. But anyway, this is what I've been playing, I would say, most often right now. Or as white, I'm playing just double 4-4 almost every single game as white. In some very specific situations, I would be playing a 3-4 as white. Like in this case, I might play D17. I would never play my second move as white as a 3-4 facing the opponent like this, though. And then I'm trying to start following some of like the more AI recommendations in terms of the order that you should approach corners, and approaching 3-4s being bigger than 4-4s and stuff. And I know this leaning attack is good. This is something I used to always approach high on these 3-4s, because what I would do is one of the only first Josekis I knew that was still applicable from the prior thing. Also, my sound is really loud, hopefully. Sorry about that. This is one of the only Josekis I knew, and so I would always approach a 3-4 high, because this was like the only 3-4 Joseki I knew. But I'm starting to try and learn some of the other 3-4 Josekis, so I'm getting more willing to play like this pressing move and things like that. But he approached my corner. I instead am enclosing my 3-4 because I think that's bigger than being double approached. This was something new to me, is that someone jumping into the 3-3 after approaching, but without me pincering them. So I didn't exactly know what I should play here. I think this move is wrong, though. But I just descended, and then this kind of could revert to a 3-3 Invasion Joseki thing. But instead of playing at Q17, he played on the outside, which I think actually just helps me and kind of builds good shape. Again, it could kind of revert, but he didn't take the Atari and then fix. He just extended out this way, which is fine. And then I decided to attack his other 1 stone now because it felt very close. He jumped out. I pushed one more time. He counter pincer thinged. I peeped and then jumped out. He did a large knight's move towards my corner. I bumped my head. I'm not sure this was the right move, but this was an unusual situation, and it felt like it worked out decently, so it was fine. Um, and it kind of allowed me to seal off the corner in Sente, which was also kind of nice. I feel like he should have had a much better situation here, or just ran out. But then there was a open corner here, so I decided to approach. He kicked, and I backed off, and I was pretty happy with the result of this opening. I feel like I have maybe a potentially weak stick, but it should be fine. This is the only kind of weak group that I have, but it's, you know, there's still potentially some moves I could play over here that are forcing, that force this to make life or to run out. And while it's running out and I'm running out, I would be splitting against this other weak group. And because I already got this descend at S16, it's kind of completely cut off. And so my target right now is essentially these 3 stones at the top, and my groups at the bottom are pretty settled. So then he plays this weird move, which I just connected on the outside, and I was thinking that he would play something like this, and then I would just play on the outside to try and keep him enclosed. I don't know exactly what I would play. Probably something like this, actually. Hard to know. But anyway, I didn't really expect most of his moves here, and I didn't expect him to play on this side, which then let me get this good capping move that I was very happy to get. And from here, it just kind of turned into, you know, push-cut fighting stuff. But my reading was good enough that now I'm slightly worried about this black stick, but I was, I think, trying to be a bit over-aggressive in preventing this from having 2 eyes, but then I started to realize that, ooh, I'm definitely running out of liberties and in this capturing race, especially if he gets an eye and I don't get an eye by him having this 1 stone. That could be a problem. So I play some kind of bad moves up here, just kind of out of desperation, trying to see what he would do. Anyway, but he ends up capturing a couple stones in the corner, and then I'm just playing Sente moves to seal this in, capturing my stick, essentially. So that is what happened. And then I finished off making sure this stone had very limited dodgy, and this group would be fine, because it is now, potentially, if he runs out with this group, and I hadn't played a move in here, that I have kind of a second stick that could quickly turn into a problem, especially if he runs this stone out as well. So I thought that was good. This stone does still keep him cut off. It's probably pretty small. I maybe didn't need to save that stone. There's probably a bigger move, but I'm okay with that as a mistake. But I get this capping move to... This is mostly to seal off this territory, because now I have somewhat of a big Moyo on the bottom, actually. And potentially forcing against his group if it needs to still live, but instead he just invaded directly. I felt this invasion was definitely too deep. So I just took away the base and made him jump out, and then try and stayed ahead of him on the running fight. Then he took time to play up here. I don't think he needed to do this, and this felt like a very slow slack move. I didn't think I needed to connect here, but in hindsight, that might have been definitely a better move, but instead I just wanted to block from this side, and then if I can get any sort of move over in here, I was definitely considering just letting him take the 1 stone, or 2 stones, and then I can seal off the left side and maybe the top, and that would even, you know, solidify my Moyo even more. Instead, he played this, which I don't think he needed to play for the corner, and was kind of bad shape, right? It's making an empty triangle. So instead, I just played this Tiger's Mouth to now prevent any cuts, because he kind of gave me the opportunity. I was expecting him to cut here on this move, and then we would fight somehow. I think still just playing over here might be even better, but this wants to shoulder hit. Yeah, I probably should have considered shoulder hit here too. Anyway, but I had kind of the time to Tiger's Mouth and then play here, so it worked out. Probably not the right move ordering and the right priority, but hey, I'm still working on that stuff. He lets me Hana at the head of 2 stones, then he tries to poke out here. I'm just worried about sealing off the top, and then he cuts. And then after this cut and extend out, I was considering just playing this, but then I realized that it might be better if I can swallow this on a large scale, because I don't think these 2 stones can live at this point. So I decided to swallow them on a large scale by playing down here, which should be forcing against some of these stones over here. And I was potentially worried if he tried to play another cut on this side, that my group inside here might get in trouble. So I thought if I play this descending move, you know, now I potentially get ways in order to make life in here, so that if he ever, you know, does stuff in here, that I'm not ending up in trouble of any way if I have forcing moves against those 2 stones. But he responded, and then I pushed again, and then he cut, um, and then I jumped out, and he cut again, and I'm just giving up the 1 stone, making sure that it's a false eye though in the process. And now coming back to extend this group out, and now it's like, where does he have room to live in here, right? Like there's already such small room. And so at this point, it goes back and forth for the rest of the game. You can see here for a short while, it wants to play moves on the left side that I can't read out what the exact like purpose of these are at this point. So I was not paying attention to this. I was just worried about like being solid over here, trying to make sure this group can't live in any way. Um, this move was a good find by him though. I can stay connected and keep my cutting stones alive, but he does end up also swallowing these 5 stones, which kind of makes it probably a bad decision to try and save the 1 stone earlier. It gives me a couple more forcing moves. He's still trying to squirm inside here and make life somehow eventually. But I end up being able to come back and play the first move on the left side, which was very big. So he blocked, he played this Hane, but there's kind of really nothing for him to do in here. And then again, he keeps squirming, keeps trying to cut my stones off. But I'm just making sure that I'm solidly connected, you know, gonna have 2 eyes no matter what he plays. Make sure I keep his eyes false. And stay solid. And then he tries this, I think, last-ditch effort where he wants me to block over here, and then I was worried, you know, he has some way to start making an eye over here. I don't know that it would ever actually happen, but just to be extra safe, I decided to play back here, and I decided, you know, if he gets this sort of endgame, it's not a big deal to me, because if I just kill this middle group still, then I'm winning the game, right? So I was fine giving up some endgame here. I'm trying to get better at that, not going for completely just bloodthirsty, kill everything, but try and learn, you know, what can I give up? What do I not need to be concerned with? And what is actually, you know, the key to winning the game, right? And so at this point, I think I had won the game pretty solidly. I think I had read out like there's basically no way for him to ever live anywhere in here. He's trying to build like an eye here, but it's already false. So it's like a lot of weird stuff where he's playing stuff that isn't ever going to work. And then I end up just starting to play endgame stuff. So like up here, I just jumped into the corner, and I thought he was just going to like block and connect and do something else to like link up to this other group. But he chose to play here, and then this doesn't link up. It actually lets me push through and separate him in Sente even. And then because I am able to in Sente threaten the corner group, and then he comes back and plays here, but this doesn't actually save his corner because now if he plays down here, I can just connect. And then these stones are Natari, and he only has 1 eye, and I have plenty of liberties. There's like no capturing race here. I could potentially even give up these, whatever, 6 stones if I needed to, but I think I was fine if he did this. Yeah, it looks like I'm just fine. But then you know, he can't play here because it's self-Atari, right? So I ended up killing his corner also, and he resigned the game at that point. So this was played again at 5Q level on Fox. I'm definitely much more confident in my playing right now. I've started playing, I'm going to the local Go Club in Raleigh, probably about every other week or so. And yeah, I'm going to try and keep track of my progress, probably about once a month, do an update video of what's my progress been going like, what videos am I at, you know, in terms of learning resources and things like that, and what's my strength, and then doing maybe 1 or 2 game reviews of where I started the month, where I ended the month, and yeah, track my progress from there. And hopefully by the time we hit June or July, we're up near 1 Dan, and hopefully by the time we hit, you know, December, January, we're up near 3 Dan. That's the goal. So hope that was interesting to you. I think people are generally self-defeating in some way, where and not every person is going to take this as seriously as me or devote the time as seriously as me. I'm coming from a lot of like esports background and things like that. I've kind of learned how to learn in a pretty, I would say, efficient way. I can learn stuff pretty quickly. and internalize it very quickly and then implement it very quickly in terms of my thought processes and stuff like that. And so I feel fairly confident that my goal is achievable. I think um, oftentimes people limit themselves because they think these things might take years, and for a lot of people, I'm sure it does take years. But I think the best way to break through those barriers is to kind of just force yourself to do it. Um, I've put up videos in the past um, that go over kind of my coaching philosophies and things like that. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you back next month.